The immigration debate continues to be volatile today, with Howard-era Immigration Minister and Liberal Party elder Phillip Ruddock buying into the issue with a direct swipe at rising Liberal star Andrew Hastie. Writing in The Australian, Ruddock pushed back against what he saw as divisiveness in the immigration debate. Amid these tensions, wrote the former minister, there are some who wish to politicise the debate by suggesting Australians have a fear of becoming strangers in their own country. We, as a nation, must resist this flawed sentiment. That was a very direct reference to an intervention last month by former frontbencher and long-term Liberal leadership aspirant Hastie.
In one lengthy post on social media, he tells followers Australians are starting to feel like strangers in our own homes. If Liberals don't act, he says, we might even die as a political movement.
This is a delicate issue. There's no doubt our immigration rate is too high now. Even the government admits that. They're reducing the intake as we speak. But the issue of integration and social cohesion is sensitive and it can be toxic. If you dare even dip your toe into this water, you'll be denounced as xenophobic or even racist. So surely Hastie has been brave enough to raise a very important point. Over the past 2 years, we've seen the worst examples of racial, religious and cultural intolerance that this country's seen in the post-war era. I mean, look at this from the streets of Sydney's Lakemba the day after the October the 7th atrocities in Israel.
I'm smiling and I'm happy. I'm elated. It's a day of courage.
Now, the question is, how many Australians would not have felt like strangers if they'd stumbled across that gathering, that macabre celebration? How can we accept that level of intimidation and intolerance in our society? And the next night we saw this at the Opera House.
Where's the Jews? Where's the Jews? Where's the Jews? Where's the Jews?
And the same question applies. Who would not have felt out of place if they were at that place, at that time, hearing that stuff? Did that look or sound like the Australia we know and love and want? Is that the level of religious or racial hatred acceptable in modern Australia? Is that an example of multiculturalism and social cohesion working or fracturing? Tough debate, but Hastie is right to try to have the conversation. This conversation on the coalition side happens just as the Home Affairs Minister Tony Burke has revealed that up to 700 additional Gazan immigrants could come to Australia in coming weeks, even though a ceasefire is in place in Gaza and the war is supposed to be over. By the end of last year, almost 2,000 Gazans had arrived here. There'll be many more now. We don't know the exact number, but almost 3,500 visas have been approved, with twice as many rejected. And today we learned more are on the way, but the minister is quick to point out that none of them will be prisoners freed as part of the peace process.
And I made sure I had this because there was a bizarre allocation that somehow we'd be involved in resettlement of people who've been in prison. There are resettlement countries. Australia's not one of them. The people who we have on our caseload, there's roughly 600 to 700 of them roughly 600 to 700 on our caseload. Sometimes we have people on our caseload where we don't know if they're still alive. But we've got roughly 600 to 700 on our caseload. And for those individuals, the and they've had all the checks that I just described. Effectively, they would have been here some time ago, but they haven't been able to get out. Some of them may well start coming. It's also true, if the peace is successful, as happens with any conflict, some people might decide they don't want to leave after all.
This is a stunning revelation, given that Pauline Hanson is already calling for the more than 2,000 Gazans already here to be sent back to the Middle East immediately. It's worth pointing out that Australia appears to have given temporary visas to far more people fleeing Gaza than any other country, and Arab nations in particular have done little to welcome Gazan refugees. We revealed last month how the minister welcomed one cohort of Gazan immigrants at Sydney Airport, and he refused to answer questions about why. Today, he finally provided details explaining how he'd taken a special interest in one mother and daughter.
That mother and daughter had spent 18 months hiding in a church in Gaza. Before I had the portfolio, just by chance, someone had handed me a phone and I'd found myself having a video conversation with them while they were hiding. I was really pleased to be a minister in the sort of country where I could meet them at the airport and I could say, you're welcome here, you're safe.
But undoubtedly that was wonderful news for that family, of course, but questions remain about how many more Gazans are going to arrive and why that should happen if peace holds, especially when Arab nations in the region are doing so little. And the even bigger dilemma remains social cohesion here in Australia, when the Albanese government has been so timid about calling out anti-Semitism and condemning Islamist extremist demonstrations and hate speech. The last thing we can afford is to risk importing more extremism. And only a weak government and a weak society would be unwilling to debate these issues during these difficult times.